Man, whether you want to believe it or not, I gotta let you know that the practice of semen retention will awaken your spiritual senses. Yes, sir, let me say that again. The practice of semen retention will awaken your spiritual senses. And you might be wondering, what the hell do you mean by that? What are my spiritual senses? Are they spidey senses? Do I become Spider-Man? No, not exactly, bro. Not exactly. Without further ado, let me break this bitch down real quick like a brick for y'all. Now, this whole concept and this whole journey of semen retention is not about just hoarding all your semen by just retaining your life force. Yes, that is part of the journey to be able to transcend your lower levels of consciousness, your lower three worlds, like I talk about so much on this channel, which focuses on survival, sex, and status, and then elevate to the higher levels of consciousness. And this is what I mean by you awaken your spiritual senses, because when we're so stuck living in those lower three worlds, only focused on survival, only focused on sex, and only focused on status, we are just living in our animalistic nature. I've talked about before on this channel, the 3 states of man, how that in itself, that level, those levels of consciousness are allowing you to become more like an animal. Not like a man, and not like the spiritual man. The spiritual man is the highest. And this is what you are accomplishing on this practice of retention. You are elevating and evolving beyond the animalistic and transcending beyond just the man and tapping into your soul, your spiritual evolution. And you can see this because as you go throughout this practice, as you go throughout this journey, you're going to start to be able to build up the skill or trait of discernment. Things that might have enticed you before, that are pleasurable in the moment, they give you that instant gratification, whether that's hooking up with girls, whether that's watching porn, whether that's junk food, whether that's this, whether that's that, are not going to be able to pull you in and distract you from your higher purpose anymore. Because you are building up that spiritual sense of discernment. You're building up that spiritual sense of being able to know what it is that I'm really brought here to do. What is the purpose I have on this lifetime? What are the things that are going to help me get to that point? You're not going to be so trapped in your sensory behaviors and impulses to the point where you just get hijacked when you see a certain stimulus that pulls you into acting a way that you don't really want to do. You start to control your behaviors. You start to become more detached from all these sensory impulses. You're not so reactive to everything. And you might be wondering, well, doesn't that just mean self-control? Yes, self-control is a spiritual capability, because if you really think about it, that's when you start to understand that you are not the mind and you are not the body. What does that leave you to? The soul. The soul is the driver of the car. The car is the body and the steering wheel is the mind. Most of the time, you and a lot of people out there are not even in the driver's seat. The soul is not even in the driver's seat. It's in the passenger seat. It's just sleeping. Somebody else or something else is programming the mind and moving the car wherever it wants to go to. It's driving it whatever it wants to go to. Whether that's the driver is lust, whether the driver is greed, whether the driver is anger, it just takes you wherever it wants to take you. You're not in control anymore. But when you develop those spiritual senses through practices like semen retention, guess what? The soul kicks that motherfucker out of the driver's seat and gets back in the helm of the ship. It starts controlling what path you're going to take, what actions you're going to make, what kind of behaviors you're going to choose. Without that, man, you are completely lost in the sea of life. Somebody can pull a string at you this way and you're going to act like this. Someone can pull your string at this way and you're going to act like that. You're just a ticking time bomb. You're a puppet that's being used, that's being manipulated. This is why spiritual knowledge and spiritual senses are so important within the modern world. A lot of people think that, oh man, like, it sounds cool, spirituality, this and that, getting closer to God, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like a lot of hippie stuff. But when you really break it down, your soul and your psychology have a one-to-one direct communication. And guess what? Your psychology and your mind have a one-to-one direct communication. So if you want to succeed on the physical plane, guess what? You need to succeed on the spiritual plane. Because the spiritual plane will allow you to manipulate the psychological plane, and then the psychological plane will obviously make you able to manipulate the physical plane. It all goes in levels, and the spiritual is the highest form of it. That's why it's important to do this practice, not only for achieving your goals, but to actually awaken your spiritual senses, awaken your spiritual capabilities. And you might be wondering, what are those spiritual capabilities? Well, one, we just talked about discernment. Because you're not living in those lower three worlds, you're not living in your lower planes of consciousness, you're actually awakening to higher things. And guess what? Your higher self starts talking to you when you do that. That's the spiritual sense of intuition. A lot of people think that intuition means that somebody is literally gonna come out of the sky and start talking to you, like a conversation. No, it's your higher self that's already within, that the volume of it starts to get louder. A lot of people have that connection completely cut off. It's like taking a phone line, the phone cord, those old phones, and just taking the wire and just snipping it. A lot of people don't have the connection no more. A lot of people cannot call that a higher self. They don't got the ability to speed dial it whenever they need. Because again, they're stuck in those lower three levels of consciousness. Survival, sex, and status. And guess what? That plane of consciousness has a different phone line to it. That's your lower self, the degenerate side of you. That's telling you these things aren't evil, these things aren't bad, but they're just gonna not allow you to evolve. They're gonna make you devolve, de-evolution, not evolution. We're brought here to evolve past the animalistic mind, past the human mind, and tap into the spiritual side and the mystic side of what man is capable of. So when you are just stuck in those lower three levels, and when you're stuck in just chasing pleasure, dopamine, guess what? That side of the phone line just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. The volume just keeps raising up and up and up and up. And guess what? The other side, the connection to the higher self, the volume gets lower and lower and lower to the point where there is no more connection no more. You lost the phone number. The Wi-Fi ran out. You went from 5G to 3G. You're on the flip phone now. Got no connection. Like, that is what it really means to have intuition. Being able to get connected to the higher self of you that already knows what you need to do, that already guides you to the right positions, and already knows exactly how to accomplish the purpose that you have on this plane. It has all these things, it has all these answers. Again, this is why I tell you guys so much on this channel that stop looking for answers outside of yourselves. Yes, you come to this channel, yes, you come to the main channel, yes, you tap into the Patreon. Shout out to the fucking Patreon. If you want to get access to exclusive videos, full guides, in-depth occult lectures, as well as monthly masterminds and access to our private group chat where we just converse about all these types of topics around a community of like-minded men who are also on this path of self-mastery, go ahead and check the links posted in the pinned comment of this video. Of course, in there, you're also going to be able to find one-on-one consultations, apply for personalized coaching with myself, and all that good stuff, man. Everything is in the pinned comment of this video, the Discord server, the newsletter, all that good stuff, man. So check that out. But within all the content on this channel, on the main channel, on the Patreon, on when I do one-on-one consultations with my coaching clients, the whole point and whole emphasis of these types of practices, these types of techniques, these types of pieces of knowledge is to be able to tap in to the higher self. But there's always blockages out there. And one of the main blockages is the pull of lust. Again, lust is not the enemy. Lust is not what we're trying to defeat. We're trying to transcend. Again, imagine it like a gate in front of a big castle, a huge just building that has all this treasure in it. You're trying to hop over the gate. You're not really trying to break the gate, break all this shit. Like, what's easier? Transcend the gate, hop over it, or try to eliminate it completely, break it to pieces and stuff like that and get in? It's gonna take longer, it's gonna be harder to do that, and it's kind of not reasonable to do it. Hop the gate, transcend the gate, transcend lust, transcend these types of blockages holding you back from tapping in within yourself awakening those spiritual senses and accessing all the information and all the answers that you need, because the higher self is going to give it directly to you. And the higher self is your connection, your middleman in between you and God. It is the merge in between it. And if you progress longer enough on this path, on this journey, you're going to realize that there really is, it's just one continuous line. It's just one set, like pretend on a thermometer. It's just degrees on it of checking temperature. And you're over here, you, then there's a higher self, then there's God. It's all on one scale still. You elevate yourself, you elevate your spiritual sense to the point where you can just connect right to whatever it is that you want. A lot of people, again, don't have that. And this is what this practice really shows you, and what this practice actually gives you if you take it seriously. If you actually realize that it's not just about not fapping, it's not just about quitting porn, it's not just about quitting this hookup culture where you're just chasing women around trying to get a one-night stand. It's not about that. That is part of the process where you need to elevate beyond that, and that's just step one. But as you progress further and further on this path, you're going to see, oh man, no, there is a deeper aspect to this. And this is really awakening my spiritual senses. This is tapping into that intuition. This is tapping into the skill of discernment. This is tapping into the next thing that I want to talk about, synchronicities. A lot of people will talk about, oh man, there's so many weird synchronicities happening in my life when I'm on semen retention, when I'm on this journey. That's because you're following the alignment of the universe. You're following the code of nature. Nature does not kind of make man into this slave of lust and slave of his fleshly desires. Nature is here to accelerate your evolution, accelerate your spiritual growth. So when you tap into the alignment with that, guess what? Nature, the universe, God, the supreme source, whatever you want to call it, starts giving you signs and signals like, hey man, you on the right path, motherfucker, you on the right path. Of course, you're going to get those senses of intuition that's going to tell you you're on the right path through the higher self. But when you see it out and about on your day-to-day life, it's like, damn man, I am on the right path. There's something deeper to this. There's something kind of communicating with me. But again, a lot of people stuck in those lower levels of consciousness cannot see it, cannot realize it, even though it's always there. It's like thinking that, oh man, like this rock and all this stuff was right in front of my vision, but I have blinders on. It's always there, but I have this tunnel vision glasses where it doesn't allow me to check my peripheral vision. It's already there. You need to just take the blinders off. And that's by elevating and transcending to higher states of consciousness and tapping into your higher faculties as a man. Semen retention does do that to you if you progress on this path far enough. I promise you. And for you guys out there watching this, we're tapped into this channel, we're tapped into the main channel. I know for a fact that you are not just looking at this practice merely as just a way to quit degenerate habits. It's a part of the process, like we said, but you see how it can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you are inclined to the path of self-mastery. You know that you are here for a bigger purpose, a bigger reason, and that part of the purpose requires you to master the mind, body, and soul. And this practice of semen retention is going to help accelerate that progress. It's going to help accelerate that process. So you know that if you just tap into this practice, it's going to act as a battery pack to accelerate and propel you on the path and propel you on your purpose. So when you start realizing these things, when you start actually encapsulating it and embedding it into your own lifestyle, embedding it into your own journey, into your own path, you're going to start seeing these things happen on a day-to-day basis, bro. Whether that's repeating numbers, whether that's just weird encounters with people. I'll be talking about more about that later on, of just weird things that are gonna happen to you on semen retention. Weird encounters with people were things where you were just thinking about something. You were just thinking about something. And then 5 seconds later, 5 minutes later, that same thing gets pulled into your own reality. A lot of people talk about the magnetism you get on semen retention, but they think of it only on the physical plane. But it happens more on the mental plane than anything, because again, your mind is a magnet. all these thoughts that you accumulate in as you go throughout your day are just thoughts being pulled in from the ether. And wherever your mind is tuned into, whatever frequency your mind is tuned into, subconsciously, whether you know it or not, is going to pull in those types of thoughts. It's going to pull in those types of ideas and stuff going on in the mental plane into your own reality. And your mind eventually has the choice to be able to manifest it out into the physical, or it can just let it go and just keep going about your day. But again, a lot of people are stuck in those lower states of consciousness. So guess what? They're going to be tapped into a lower frequency. They're going to get lower thoughts, and whether they know it or not, they're manifesting those things into lower desires and lower qualities of life within their physical existence. But a good example of this, like this happened to me just recently. Like I was thinking about one of my friends who it was at a beach. I was basically just got done running, and I was just thinking about, oh man, like I used to go to this beach with this guy all the time, man. Like, I wonder what he's doing and stuff like that. Just like thinking about a good friend of mine. 5 minutes later, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes later, I'm walking back up to the parking lot, and I see the guy right there. See the exact person. I haven't seen him in months. See the person right there. Things pull. Things are synchronicities just happen on a day-to-day basis, and this just gives your life more like, wow, man, like this is crazy. Like I'm just living in a dream almost, but I can control this dream, and I'm living in my own dream rather than living in someone else's dream. When you're programmed by society, when you're programmed by someone or something else, you're living in their dream. You're just a character in their dream. They're like the main artist of it. They're the main creator of it. You're just a little pawn on the chessboard. But when you tap back out of that and you become a sovereign entity within this lifetime by controlling your own mind, controlling your own body, controlling your own actions and behaviors, you start to manifest and build out your own dream, your own vision, your own life in just general. You're no longer a pawn on the chessboard. You become an actual player in the game. Become the game itself. It's a night and day difference, man. I'm telling you, it's a night and day difference. If you actually tap into this practice, take it seriously, you do all the practices where you can actually do this for a longer period of time to be able to see how it all works out through doing the things that I talk about on the Art of Retention ebook. If you haven't tapped into that yet, make sure you go run it up after this. Just go on the main channel, Fulati Fitness, type in how to succeed on semen retention. There's a full guide for you. You'll be able to get the ebook right there. It's all free, as well as if you just go on the main channel, go on the playlist, there's a whole audio series of the ebook. Tap into that, go listen to it while you walk, go listen to it while you are working out, whatever it is. You got all the tools and stuff that you need to be able to succeed on this practice. If you want to take it up to another level, we get more guidance from me, one-on-one consultations, of course. There's the apply for personalized coaching and the monthly masterminds where we do on the private Patreon community. But you start doing all these things, the pranayamas, the meditations, the having a creative outlet, working out, the proper diet, all these types of things, you tap into it, you become a sovereign entity once again, and then you shift completely. It's a 180 shift between who you were before and who you are during the journey, during the process. You just look back at yourself like, dude, was I just like sleeping throughout my whole life? Was I just like just zoned out my entire life? That's what I mean by awakening your spiritual senses. Your spiritual senses make you feel more alive, makes you more part of life. It's not just, oh man, I go to work, I do this, I hang out, I have a little pleasure, and I repeat the process. I do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. If you guys have watched SpongeBob, you remember that one episode where Squidward is living in like a utopia town where it's just all people that look like him. He goes to work, he plays his clarinet, makes his food, goes back to sleep. Does that like 10 years straight. It's just a whole like time lapse of it. Everybody's in that position until you finally wake up from it. And that could be from a spiritual awakening. That could be from just hopping on semen retention and tapping into your spiritual senses. But it just takes one decision in your life to be able to unlock that part of your unlock that element of life, unlock that pillar of life, the spiritual side of it. And again, like we said before, the spiritual is going to help you tap into more parts of your mind, which is going to help you tap into more parts of your body, which is going to help you tap into more parts of your ability to manifest and create your vision out on the physical world. This is not just a small little practice to get over some bad habits. It's much, much, much deeper than that. That's why you need to take it seriously. That's why you need to actually, if you want to progress on this path, if you actually want to see what I'm talking about. Because I know some of you guys out there are probably watching this like, dude, it sounds cool, but I don't believe it. I used to be in the same fucking position as you. I used to watch the videos and be like, that sounds great. I don't fucking believe it. I don't think just holding your nut will do that for you. That's why I'm trying to make you understand that it's beyond just holding your nut. That's beyond just not jerking off or releasing your seed to random women all the time. It's beyond that. You're literally using the same creative life force energy, sending it up to higher faculties, and guess what? When you send it up to higher planes of consciousness, it gets expressed out in higher ways, in higher forms. You become able to create things. You get able to tap into that intuition. You're going to be able to tap into that euphoric state of bliss where you walk throughout your day-to-day life. You're in a flow state all the time, and things just kind of go your way. Even if they don't go your way, they still are going your way because you have the spiritual capability to be able to detach from it. I'm not the mind. I'm not the body. This is just all part of the plan. God, the higher self, whatever you want to call it, has a designed path for me, and this is part of the equation. I'm not going to try to go against the current of the ocean. I'm going to flow with it, and if it brings me over to like a rocky area, I'm going to be able to get up out of the rock and boom, get back onto the stream, get back into my path. This is what this practice will really tap into. So let this stuff marinate in your mind and let it really just kind of actualize to the point where you see it more than just what we talked about before, just not jerking off or not fapping or not watching porn or not chasing women all the time. Let it actualize to the point where you start to realize that. Then and only then will you be able to see, oh man, this is something different. This is something more powerful than I might think, that I might initially have perceived. It's beyond that. And if you have that perception, guess what? It's going to match back to the physical or the mental or the spiritual rewards or benefits that you get from it. The more higher you look at this practice, the higher the benefits, the higher the rewards, the higher the outcomes you get from it. If you think it's just something lowly, oh man, I'll stop this bad habit after like 7 days, 10 days, this and that, you're just gonna get that. Whatever you put the expectation to, it's gonna match it. The universe is going to match that expectation. Take this information I'm giving you as a person that's been on this path, a person that's been in the situations that you're in right now or that you're trying to get out of. Like, I've been in both situations. I'm not someone that's been on semen retention my whole life. Like, I know what you're going through. I know. That's why I'm trying to give you the information to help accelerate your progress. I've been in these positions. If somebody gave this game to me beforehand, I would have been further on this journey, further on my overall purpose, because again, semen retention is a tool to help you accelerate your progress on the mental, physical, and spiritual planes to be able to embody your higher self and eventually work out and produce that type of purpose you're brought here to accomplish. That's all it is at the end of the day, a tool to help you access higher states of consciousness, higher capabilities, higher functions, higher flow states to be able to produce value to this world, the value that you were brought here to show, to express, to enlighten, to educate, to entertain, whatever it is for you and whatever form it is for you. It's going to help you tap into that much quicker. And that brings us to another spiritual sense, which is unlocking your purpose, unlocking that actual path that you were given. And this goes back to the first thing, you're tapping into the higher self, and the higher self already knows your purpose, it already knows your path, it already knows what you were brought here to accomplish. But when you start to peel back the layers of these false conceptions of pleasure, you start to peel back layers of your false perception of self. Now, what do I mean by that? You think that you are this guy from this area of the world that speaks this language and does this and does that, and that's great. That's an identity that you've been kind of given. You've been programmed to believe into. And that programming may give you some benefits, but it also takes away from your true nature, from your true essence. Because it's somebody else telling you. As a kid, your brain is like Play-Doh. They're telling you you're this, you're that, you're that, you're that. Your brain takes that and embeds it into its identity, its perception of the ego. And it holds on to that. Holds on to that for dear life. And some of these types of things is actually a hindrance to your progress. Again, they act like blocks, gates from that castle. And when you actually are on this path of trying to become the best version of yourself, you need to learn how to get to your core, get to your core essence, get to your inner child. And that inner child already, again, has those answers, already has those types of things where it was given and gifted by God, by the universe, by whatever you want to call it, certain types of skills, interests, and capabilities to help it express and be able to enlighten, to be able to educate. Your inner child, you as a kid, knew those types of things, were already drawn to those types of things. But again, it's beaten out of you. Your family, your friends, society pulls you into their vision, into their dream, like we said before. And you start to forget about, hey man, I'm the main character of my own dream. I'm not telling you the main character of life itself, but everyone has their own life in their own head. Every time we look at watch a video or look at a picture or something like that, it can be the same picture, but my eyes and my internal psyche is going to perceive this video, is going to perceive that picture in a totally different way. It's a totally different mental landscape, internal landscape, which affects how we view our external landscape. Even though, again, we could be looking at the same thing externally, it's going to be perceived differently internally. So all these types of things where these programming start pulling you into their own vision of reality, their own agenda, you start to forget about your own. You start to forget about being a sovereign entity that actually can pursue their own purpose. And guess what? They're gonna program things like, oh man, everybody watches porn. That's normal. You need to do that. Everybody goes and wastes their sexual energy on one night stands. Go do it. Everybody's just focused on survival, sex, and status. Why don't you do it? You become hive-minded. Everybody's doing it, so I'm gonna do it. Everybody's going to school, so I'm gonna go to school. Everybody's going out to the club, so I'm going out to the clubs. Everybody's doing these drugs, so I'm doing these drugs. Like, you don't even have the perception or the ability to actually take a step back, listen to something higher than you, be like calling you and telling you, hey man, this is bullshit, bro. You didn't come here for this. You didn't come here for low level pleasures. I got something much better for you. It's gonna be harder, it's gonna take longer, it's gonna take a lot more effort and energy out of you. But when you get to that mountaintop, when you get to the peak, the pinnacle of this journey, you're gonna feel better than you ever have before. And you're gonna feel great the entire process through it. It's gonna be difficult. But as a man, we crave that difficult type of challenge that's gonna make us really tap into our fullest capabilities mentally, physically, and spiritually to be able to unlock and see how much progress we can make. Let's be honest, man. Be completely honest with me right here. Making progress on your path, on your journey, and actually manifesting what you have in your mind, being an alchemist to the point where you take the things that are in your mind and manipulate the forces of energy, the forces of nature to the point where you see those visions, those goals, those accomplishments that you want to achieve that are in your head, you start seeing them manifest out onto the physical plane. There is no better feeling in the world. I don't care. I do not care. And you know it deep down. if you're being honest with yourself. As a man, that is one of the as a man, that is the most pleasurable feeling. It's real pleasure. It's real fulfillment. Being able to say, hey man, I brought something to life out of nothing. That's why people manipulate the sexual act, the sexual point of release, which is the fact that it actually brings into that same concept of bringing something into existence, bringing something to life through the formation of a child, and manipulates that to the point where they rob that ability of man to do it. They rob that ability of man to use that same energy, use that same ideology and concept to other aspects of their lives. They don't realize that the same energy can be used in other outlets, other forms, to do the same thing but in different ways. It can be used to create your business. It can be used to create your career path. It can be used to create your body. It can be used to create whatever it is that you have up in here. This is when the spiritual side, the spiritual senses start kicking in. Being able to take information from the spiritual plane, plug it into the psychological, mental plane, and then be able to produce it out onto the physical plane. This is what this practice will do for you, because you are not locked into somebody else's dream no more. You are not locked into these lower planes of consciousness that are robbing you from the capabilities and the accessibilities to be able to do that. Then you really start tapping into, oh man, I'm really just an alchemist. I'm really here to be an alchemist, to be able to create my vision and create the God-given vision, not what the world gives me, not the type of vision the world gives me, the external world gives me, but what God gives me, what the higher self gives me. I'm here to create that for my time being. That's what this practice will really start to click in your mind when I'm talking about the spiritual senses. You start to prioritize that purpose, that real pleasure, that real fulfillment over the small momentary, temporary pleasures. They give you a little dopamine high. They don't really give you pleasure. They don't give you real fulfillment. They give you a little bit of relief. Like if you really think about it, when you're horny and stuff like that, all you're really trying to do is relieve yourself of that energy. 9 times out of 10, you're not really creating like real love with your partner and stuff like that. If you are, then that's an actual purpose for the sexual energy. You're creating love with your partner, creating a child, whatever it is. That makes sense as a purpose behind it. But when you're doing it just to kind of relieve yourself, that means you're kind of basically, let me give a good analogy, that you're on the toilet, you're constipated, and now the only thing you're thinking about is relieving yourself of that constipation. Is that really a pleasurable end destination, end goal? To finally get that shit out of you? No, but that's the only thing on your mind. Relieve yourself of that quote unquote pain, that discomfort. But the same thing can be applied to just wasting your sexual energy. Those urges come about, and then the only thing you think about is relieving them, and the only way you know how to relieve them is through sexual release, the lowest form of doing it. Because again, you're not doing it to create a child, you're doing it just to relieve yourself, wasting this energy, depleting yourself. Because again, society, all this stuff has programmed you to believe that that is the only way you can actually relieve yourself of it. Not actually teaching you the things that you gain from this channel, that you gain from the main channel, that you gain from books, that you gain from the private Patreon, the one-on-one consultations, the coaching packages, all that stuff. The stuff that I actually teach you, because I wish I got taught this earlier, that you can use that same energy when it's getting all these urges to come in about and transcend it up higher planes. And only the spiritual senses will allow you to do that. When you don't have the connection to spiritual senses, you can't do that, because you don't realize that there's other higher levels. You don't realize that there's higher levels of consciousness. You haven't even touched those areas. It's like playing a video game and you are just in one part of the map. Every other part of the map is blacked out. You don't know what's there. Not realizing that there's much more quote unquote gold, there's more missions, there's more quests, there's more things to do, more pleasurable missions in those uncharted parts of the map. You need to tap into those uncharted parts of the map by elevating your level of consciousness through this practice of semen retention. There's other practices, again, that you need to plug in with it, but retention just gives you that nitric boost. it gives you that propellant fuel to just take whatever practice that you're doing with it to a whole nother level. It's just double XP, bro. Think of it like that. It's double XP. It's 5 XP, it's 10 XP. It just completely multiplies and magnifies whatever it is that you do. So why not use it to your advantage? When you're thinking about elevating your spiritual senses and you hop on semen retention, guess what? It's going to elevate it quicker. It's going to elevate it stronger. It's going to elevate it faster. It's going to elevate it in a much more efficient, streamlined way because you're not using that creative energy to create that vision. The vision was to elevate and access those higher levels of consciousness. So guess what? It's going to do it if you actually let it. You're like, you don't realize how much you're actually self-sabotaging yourself. You don't realize how much success that you can really tap into. It's just, you're blocking yourself from it without even knowing it. Constantly, man. It's not, you don't think about, oh man, I'm not successful because of this, because of that, because of that. You're not successful because of you. And I'm not blaming you for it because a lot of people have programmed you and a lot of things have programmed you to do certain things that are self-sabotaging your own potential. But when you start to listen and you start to educate yourself and you start to become aware of these things, all that's left is for you to implement these types of tools. And again, the Art of Retention ebook has those tools for you. So don't just watch this video and be like, oh man, that was great, man, that was motivational. Start implementing it into your life and then realize what I'm saying. It's not, you're gonna get a little dopamine high from what I'm talking about. It's gonna give you, oh man, that could happen to me too. You're gonna mirror it in your own vision. No, I want you to experience it, bro. I want you to feel it. I want you to come back to this video. I want you to comment and tell me, hey man, what you're saying is right. And I'm not saying, oh man, I'm right, listen to me, blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is, this is the truth. I'm just relaying the message to you. Don't care about the messenger, worry about the message. If you get this message from somebody else, by all means, do it. But this is about your progress. This is about your potential. This is about your experience on life, tapping into the highest form of it. And that is to unlocking your spiritual senses. That's by using this practice as a tool to accelerate the entire process along the way. So without further ado, man, it's been your boy out here in the field, in the flesh, dropping you out that game so you guys can make these gains. And I'm out of here. Peace.